if you're here at this moment, then you're probably thinking about one thing, that this is your time to go all in. The time to stop making excuses and finally act. The time to shut down all the distractions and commit to a period of intense focus and discipline. And I think every single one of us have dreams and aspirations that you want to achieve. But for some reason or another, whether be it fear of failure or fear of being judged, we are not committed to them just yet. And we are only doing what everyone else is doing. And you are never pushing as hard as we should. And the question is why? I think because we were taught that this is the safest way possible. But then, in doing so, we are bottling our inner passions and desires, never truly living a life that we were blessed with. The one mistake that I kept doing was thinking that I have an endless amount of time, that this window of opportunity will always be here. And I can imagine you've been making the same mistake, maybe. But the more and more we wait, the more we put these things off, that window of opportunity is only getting smaller and probably harder to achieve in the long run. Something that I think is one of the most common reasons why we don't ever start something is because we are too scared of failing. And the reality is that you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You might look stupid sometimes, and you might even cringe at yourself. But you must understand that it's normal, and any great individual that you've ever looked up to, those great artists, athletes, businessmen, at one point, they were terrible at their craft, and they had terrible failures and setbacks. I remember a while ago when I first started this YouTube channel, it wasn't like I was instantly good at talking to the camera or making good videos or even telling stories like I am doing right now. And in fact, looking at my page, you realize that most of the videos there are AI generated because I was afraid of showing my face. I was afraid that if I used my own voice, then my audience would not like it. That maybe my accent is so bad that I'll not get any subscribers. I used to cringe listening to my own voice. But recently, I decided to show up differently. I decided to show my face. And to my surprise, I've started getting more subscribers and more friends are showing up. And this has given me a clear direction of what I need to work on and how I can continue to get better at my craft. What you need to do is, instead of looking at your failure as these monumental defeats, look at them instead as learning lessons and learn how to embrace your failures as a natural process. Learn how to turn your failures into opportunities. Every time you fail or fall, take it as an opportunity to learn where your weaknesses lie, so that with each step, you're improving upon your craft, upon your videos, upon your songs, upon your poems. There's a saying that goes, quantity leads to quality. And I think we can apply this to most of the things in our life. By just doing something frequently and putting in the repetitions day in, day out, no matter the outcome, the results, it will give you a real-world experience and give you a path on how to get better. So don't get hung up trying to create perfection. The most important thing that you need to do is to start the process and embrace the failure as you move. Now, one interesting thing that I think all entrepreneurs and creatives like us should adopt is to think like an athlete. Whatever your goal is that you're trying to accomplish, I think that you should see it as a sport. And to perform at the highest level in that sport and sustain it, you need to master the art of rest and recovery. I think we've all heard stories about this one friend or person who works so hard that they grind themselves down, that they end up sacrificing their health, they're always sick. But I think this is bad advice because eventually it leads to burnout. You experience brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, and to some point, even depression. And at the end of the day, you perform worse. Overall, you slow down your entire progression. You might think that rest and recovery will slow you down, but in fact, if done correctly, it improves your output. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how successful you are. If you're not healthy enough to enjoy the money that you make, then it's not worth it. So not only do athletes focus heavily on their sport of choice, but they're also extremely mindful of their diet, sleep and recovery to allow them perform at the best of their capabilities and sustain their sport. When it comes down to it, you are the engine, the powerhouse that is performing everything. You need to take care of this powerhouse. If you're running down and barely functioning, if you're not sleeping properly, you're not eating healthy, you're not getting outside for sunlight, socializing with friends, it will wear you down. What I mean by that is that you're not going to be able to think as clearly, and ultimately you'll hinder your chances of succeeding at whatever it is you're trying to do. For me, focusing on my own health and recovery allows me to create more meaningful work. I can write better scripts, can produce better videos, and it allows me to carry, a lot more stress and load. I feel more creative throughout the day, and I can even work longer hours without burnout. And with sleep probably being the biggest impact on my performance and mood. If you can perform optimally on 4 hours of sleep, great. No problem with that. But try to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. Practice some good sleep hygiene. If you can dial in this, other aspects of your life, not just the work, but the mental and physical aspect as well, I think you'll be well on your way to working much harder. You'll feel more sharper. You'll be able to put out more amazing work, whatever it is you're doing. And don't get me wrong. I think there are those seasons where you really have to step into override. And it can be okay to go into the hustle mode for a short time, depending on how important your task or deadline is. We always face deadlines every day. But if you're in this for the long run and want to stay consistent for many years, which usually is what it takes to develop a hard skill or even grow a business, then you need to learn how to rest and recover at a high level, to match your high output. Now, this is something I've been noticing more, that it's becoming much harder, especially for this generation, to sit and focus on tasks. I think that there are more distractions than ever before, constantly competing for our attention. The level of stimulation that we are bombarded with every single day on our phones, social media, sugary foods, video games, drugs, alcohol, adult entertainment, it is so much higher now than it has been over the years. And now more than ever, it has an even stronger grip on our attention. There is this amazing book called Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence by Anna Lemke. And she believes that because all this easy access to indulging in so many high rewarding things, we have never been so depressed, more anxious, and more addicted than we are now. You might not have realized this, but many of these things are scientifically and purposefully designed to get you addicted, to keep coming back, robbing you of your time, robbing you of your attention, and most importantly, robbing you of your ability to be able to sit still and do the not so stimulating important things for you, like working on that business, writing this script, editing this video, or reading that amazing book that you bought, or even spending time with family and friends outside. And no matter how hard you try to sit down and force yourself to make some meaningful progress for that big goal, that you've been putting off for so long, you can't seem to get yourself to really get started and make any meaningful progress. Eventually, like what most of us would do, you give up and fall back into doom scrolling, playing video games, binge watching that Netflix show. And even though you promise yourself that you'd finally get some work done today, the day ends and you've just ended up wasting another day. And this cycle keeps on repeating itself day in, day out. And you're not getting any younger. The simple things like writing, reading, studying, and working on your goals, they don't seem to bring you as much joy as they used to. In comparison, it doesn't really hit the same as playing a game of Call of Duty or watching a Netflix show or scrolling endlessly and enjoying TikTok videos and Instagram for that matter. Nowadays, I think our brains are so addicted and conditioned for instant gratification and short-term rewards that it's extremely hard to chase after long-term goals that often take a lot of years to accomplish. This has a closer relationship with our dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter responsible for our level of motivation, desire, and our willingness to push through effort. And when we are doing all these highly stimulating things, we are constantly spiking our dopamine. And if we overdo it, we end up depleting our dopamine reserves, which is why it might feel so hard to chase after long-term rewards. But the good thing is, if you stay away from these overstimulating things long enough, you can allow your body to restore your dopamine levels. And once you're able to restore your dopamine levels back to what we call a baseline, the not so stimulating things that you know you need to do will be much more pleasurable again. And your desire and motivation to complete them, surprisingly, will be back to normal. So this is why I recommend doing something called a dopamine fast, where you abstain from all the high stimulating things for a certain period to enable you to restore your dopamine levels. Again, back to baseline. I think one of the most important things that will lead you to your goals is learning how to enjoy the journey, learning how to enjoy the process. I think that if you only fixate yourself on that goal or number, doing the things necessary to achieve that goal will feel extremely hard and will require a lot of motivation and effort out of you. So rather than attaching yourself to a certain goal or a certain destination, learn how to enjoy the process, the day-to-day process. The journey, for example, if you're trying to get your channel monetized, like mine, but you hate writing scripts, and you only entertain the thought of having a monetized YouTube channel that is doing well, then it's going to be really hard for you to keep pushing through and showing up consistently. On the flip side, if you can learn to enjoy writing, editing videos, posting regularly, and doing these repeatedly, then with time, you'll have a channel that you're proud of, and you'll be much more likely to attain your goal, which is to have a monetized channel. Remember that it's the journey that matters, not the destination. Now, when things get hard, and they will get hard, believe me, I always put my life into perspective and practice gratitude. I remind myself that somewhere else in this world, there are millions of other people who are barely scraping by, and they would do absolutely anything in the world to have a life even closer to mine. The fact that I'm healthy, the fact that I have a roof over my head, the fact that I can chase after something that I'm passionate about is not something that I want to take lightly. It's not something that I would wish to take for granted. When you really put your life into perspective, when you really stop to think about it for a second, and I really mean stop and think for a while, you'll never want to waste another day in your life. The fact that you even sat with me through this video to this moment, it means that you're able to go all in on something and actually do something about it. And in my opinion, that is a lot more than most of the people are willing to do. At least you thought of taking a step. You thought of starting. And I want to remind you that you're more than capable of achieving whatever it is you're chasing if you put your heart and mind to it. I'm starting to sound like a motivational speaker. I'm not one. So I hope that this video motivates you to take that leap of faith and go all in whatever it is that you're trying to do.